This month, millions of people are going to come from all over the world to North America for World Cup 2026. These are people who are, for the most part, used to being able to walk, bike, or take transit to a stadium that's close into the heart of their city. Well, get ready, world, because you are not ready for America. What I'm giving you today is these 16 North American stadiums that are hosting World Cup 2026, which is being jointly hosted by Canada, the US, and Mexico. But this is a channel about cities and transportation, so today we're going to talk about the cities and stadiums that are best and worst set up to deal with the insane logistics of the World Cup. Because in the US, football stadiums are different. They're located and designed to serve a regional fan base, and in America, that usually means locating them in a low density, car dependent area with lots and lots of parking, since driving is just how people get around, and all of that means the stadiums are going to be pretty distant from the city center. Well, World Cup matches are different. It's a tournament that attracts people from thousands of miles away who are gonna arrive without a car, and they're gonna be staying in hotels, usually in the city center. And this means that World Cup matches have a vastly different travel dynamic than a typical NFL game, not to mention a crowd that probably has wildly different expectations of how they should be able to access a stadium. And that mismatch between expectations and reality is really what this video is all about. Because this is what the home stadiums for some of the world's most popular football clubs look like. I'm showing you the home grounds of the 6 clubs that finished at the top of the table for the top 6 football leagues in Europe, according to UEFA Club Coefficient, which also means they're the top 6 leagues in the world, and I will not be entertaining arguments about this. Almost without exception, these are stadiums that are close into the central city, in walkable neighborhoods, and well connected to the city's metro system. In other words, these are stadiums that have all kinds of capacity to accommodate a sellout crowd without having to waste a bunch of prime developable land on parking and roadway capacity. Traveling to matches in places like this is a fun and social experience in itself. It's a baseline thing world football fans are used to and expect, and it's an experience that's alien to sports fans in far too many American cities. So what I'm going to do is organize the 16 World Cup stadiums into a tier list, grade A through F, with, shockingly, a couple entries in the S tier. The way I evaluated these was, I assume a lot of the fans are coming from hotels in the downtown of wherever the match location is. I mean, you come from thousands of miles away, I assume you're gonna want to actually experience the dining, the culture, and the entertainment options of the city, and not stay out by the airport or whatever. So for each city, I tried to find the largest hotel, and those are basically all in the heart of the central city. And then I tried to judge the distance and transit connections to the stadium. Now, there are some unique things going on with transit and pricing to the World Cup for each city, so we'll dig into that too. And I wanted to look at the urban form and walkability of the stadium area itself, so that factored into the tier rating as well. It'll all make sense once we get into it, so let's just do that. And I'm going to do this from best to worst because it's just kind of the mood all the research put me in. So I've actually got 2 S tier stadiums, one BC Place in Vancouver. I've actually talked about this in previous videos. It's got great SkyTrain service already, and they're going to be adding extra trains on game days, but honestly, most of the places you'd want to stay in Vancouver are walking distance from BC Place, and they even set up this game trails system to guide people from downtown to the stadium, necessary because FIFA requires a strict security perimeter for all the stadiums, which you'll see is going to impact access and parking at all of these. My other S tier pick is Seattle. The stadium is a 1-mile walk from what I believe is Seattle's biggest hotel, the Hyatt Regency, about the same as the Vancouver distance. The walk and bike scores for BC Place are a little higher than they are for Lumen Field, but here's another criterion: proximity to the World Cup fan festivals that are happening in each city. The one in Vancouver is a bit distant, out at the PNE Amphitheater, about 3 miles outside downtown. But Seattle has gone with what they're calling a distributed model of fan festivals, with locations at Seattle Center, the waterfront, Soto, and I think one other location downtown. So everything you want for your visit is going to be in walking distance. Okay, A tier. I just have one entry for this, and it's Atlanta Stadium. And yes, the World Cup will not allow use of the stadium's sponsor name. The case for this one is pretty straightforward. Very accessible by MARTA Rail, reasonably close to downtown, about a mile from the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. The Fan Fest is at Centennial Park, so everything's pretty well clustered together. What separates the S-tier stadiums is the urbanism of the stadium location itself. The Seattle and Vancouver stadiums are at 89 or higher on walk and bike score rating. Atlanta Stadium, it's in the 50s and 60s. By the way, this whole video is gonna be moot if no one shows up. Let's go to B tier. Toronto Stadium has a lot going for it. It's just not as well connected to the city as Toronto's other major sports venues. Not really near the metro system at all, but well connected by tram and bus. Only 2 miles from the Chelsea Hotel, which honestly is a great distance for biking. And they will have a bike valet in operation, including at the FanFest site at Fort York. Philadelphia Stadium, a little further afield, 4 miles from the downtown Marriott, but does have an excellent heavy rail connection from Center City on the Broad Street line. Walk and bike scores around the stadium itself are sort of dismal, but Indigo Bike Share is adding extra docks and stations near the stadium and near Lemon Hill in Fairmount Park where the Fan Fest is. And rounding out B tier, Mexico City Stadium, I'm just not sure why they can't call it Azteca. The stadium is 9 miles south of what I believe is the city's largest hotel, the Hilton Reforma, so it gets docked for that, but the transit connection is going to be pretty solid, although it will involve a transfer between the metro and the light rail. FanFest is at Zocalo, which is about as central to the city as you're gonna get, and WalkScore doesn't give you anything for Mexico City. I've been to Reforma and Zocalo, and those are gonna be excellent. The stadium is a bit more of a mixed bag, but it is a very dense environment. C tier, I just have one entry, Houston Stadium, and it's just a bit of a mix. 5 miles south of the Hilton Americas downtown, so it's inside the 610 Loop, aka the recognizably urban part of Houston. Although the stadium site itself, not great for walkability. The Red Line light rail takes you right there though, and the FanFest is in East Downtown where Houston's pro soccer teams play. Actually a pretty fun area for visiting fans, so not a perfect setup, but it gets a lot right. Okay, on to Tier D. Let's start with Monterrey, Mexico. This is a tough one to judge. The stadium is 4 miles east of the Crown Plaza in the central part of the city, so not really walkable distance. Monterrey does have a metro and Line 1 helps, but it still leaves you with a 20-minute walk, which is a bit suboptimal. Just eyeballing the stadium location, not super pedestrian friendly. But the FanFest is in Park Fundadora, close into the city center, and which I think made a top 10 list on this channel at some point. And I've got the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium in Santa Clara in D tier as well. This is also a tough one to judge. I think the reality is people visiting from afar are going to want to stay in San Francisco. They're going to want to ride cable cars and do all the other touristy stuff that people visit the Bay Area for. And if they stay at, say, the San Francisco Marriott Marquis, they're going to be 35 miles from the stadium. Parking and traffic are going to be a nightmare, and transit involves taking a Caltrain VTA combination adventure with a transfer in Mountain View. The only reason I have this as high as D is you could fly into San Jose and just stay in San Jose. It's probably what I'd do, but realistically, people are going to want to spend their time in the city by the bay. Okay, I'm saving tiers E and F for last because, amazingly, this all just gets so much stupider. Click all the screen elements if you're enjoying the content and connect on the apps. Early ticket sales for my live show in Austin, Texas, September 3rd, now available on my Patreon. I don't fully understand it, but these things do tend to sell out, so use the QR code here on screen or the link down the description to get access. So the whole premise of this video is People are going to come from all over the world to see our great cities, but the act of transporting themselves to the matches is just going to leave a very bad taste in their mouths. Well, late breaking email from Natalie at SeatGeek. Price drop alert. Yeah, apparently demand is running way behind projections. I'm looking forward to a time when the US is a country people actually feel good about visiting again. Could be wishful thinking. Okay, let's hit tier E. These are all bad, but not quite bad enough. Los Angeles Stadium, what keeps it off the F tier is it is actually within the city of Los Angeles, and it is 8 miles from what I believe is the city's largest hotel, the Westin Bonaventure downtown. But the thing with the greater LA area is it's so polycentric, and there are pockets of hotels all over. People might even be staying in like Anaheim, and the polycentricity is kind of reflected in the way the transportation is set up. Yes, you can take the metro within a quasi-walkable distance of the stadium, but they've set up this network of park and rides and direct buses since they really don't want anyone trying to park at the venue itself. Not a bad solution, but your price for parking and then taking a bus ride in mixed traffic in LA is around $100. Not sure this is making me optimistic for the 2028 Olympics. Kansas City Stadium, I don't understand why they can't just call it Arrowhead, but nevertheless, under normal circumstances, this is probably an F, but the local transit agency, the KC Area Transportation Authority, is leasing around 200 motor coaches to run a service called KC Connect during the tournament, with rides to the stadium from various downtown and satellite locations priced at $15. So kind of a deal for World Cup fans, maybe not great for KC locals, since I'm told this is all getting subsidized by grant money that was supposed to pay for energy efficient buses and BRT development. Oh, also, the security perimeter at Arrowhead is going to wreak havoc on parking at Kauffman Stadium next door, and the Royals have multiple homestands during the World Cup, so this is all probably an F- for locals. Guadalajara, also tier E. The stadium location here is pretty dire, out at the western edge of the metro area. Guadalajara is a bit polycentric, and the largest hotel from my brief research, the Hotel Riu, is only 5 miles away. You could potentially use a combination of light rail and BRT to get within about a 20-minute walk of the stadium, but that trip is going to be a bit of a slog. More likely, you're going to do a shuttle from Plaza Via Viva, closer into the city center and very close to the Hotel Riu, for 500 pesos or about $29. Probably about the cost of a pre-match Shake Shack meal. One more tier E, Dallas Stadium, which is in Arlington and not really near Dallas at all. In fact, you could easily argue they should have called it Fort Worth Stadium since it's actually closer to Fort Worth, and both Fort Worth and Dallas are over 1 million population. But I'll humor this. Your hotel of choice is the Sheraton in downtown Dallas. Actually, a good connection to the Fan Fest, which is going to be in Fair Park, just a couple stops out on the Dart Light Rail. But to get to the stadium, let's go to the official World Cup website. Public transit in North Texas is the easiest, most efficient way to travel to all World Cup 2026 events. This is the first time I've ever heard the words transit, easy, and efficient used in the same sentence when referring to Dallas-Fort Worth. Scroll down a bit. From downtown to the stadium, please plan for a trip of approximately 1.5 hours. Wait times may be longer, so we encourage you to arrive early. Interesting definition of efficient. Okay, I've shown you some very, very bad World Cup setups, but sadly, none of these were quite F tier. So let's plumb the depths. Starting with Miami Stadium in Miami Gardens, a good 10 to 12 miles from places like Brickell and Miami Beach, where people might actually want to spend time. The Fan Fest is at Bayfront Park, so that's reasonable, but I have to give this an F just for the stadium access. Metro Rail and Tri-Rail don't go anywhere near, and let's check the official World Cup Miami website. While transportation details will be announced closer to the tournament, like it's a few days before at time of filming, fans will be able to explore travel options including park and ride shuttles, rail connections, really, and rideshare services. Feels like they should have had it a bit more dialed in by now. Okay, let's talk about Boston Stadium, which is actually Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, 20 miles away. At least they had the sense to call Levi's Stadium in San Jose the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium, but calling this one Boston is just false advertising, totally indefensible. People are going to stay in Boston hotels, possibly the Marriott Copley Place. They're going to go to the Fan Fest at City Hall Plaza, and then on game day, apparently, they're going to take an MBTA train, which the agency is surge pricing at $80. There are bus options too at $50, but more to the point, why are we putting international visitors through any of this? Baltimore, Charlotte, and Denver could have handled all this much better, but maybe those cities dodged a bullet on all of this nonsense. And final stadium, there aren't too many tier lists where New York could rate an F, but this is one. New York, New Jersey Stadium, previously known as MetLife. The urban environment around the stadium, completely dismal. People are going to want to stay in Midtown and take the train out of Penn Station on game day, and they can do that, but it's going to run $98 for a fairly short ride on a New Jersey Transit commuter train, and availability is limited and tickets may sell out. There will be shuttle buses too, but this whole thing is a recipe for traffic Armageddon. I would not want to be stuck on a bus anywhere near this cluster. By the way, this is the venue for the World Cup final, and it's the impression of New York a lot of visitors are going to leave the country with. I guess this is American exceptionalism, just exactly the wrong kind. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks as always to the patrons for your direct support, which allows me to work on whichever topic I'm feeling from week to week without getting too wrapped up in viewership metrics. The support from Nebula subscribers is big too. Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with some new content next week from on location in the nation's capital, and I'll see you then.